Welcome to the Warley Model Railway Club virtual event, featuring club life, the exhibition and the exhibitors. We hope you enjoy this presentation.
Hello and welcome to Warley MRC, a quick demonstration how to make hardwood native trees. Most people know there's two types of trees. There's coniferous and deciduous. Coniferous being softwood evergreen trees such as pines, firs and spruces. Hardwood being which lose the leaves in the winter, such as oak, ash, elm, beech, sycamore and the horse chestnuts. Realistic hardwood trees are very expensive to buy. There's plenty of softwood trees around, but if you want a realistic hardwood tree, then they're very expensive to buy. And this is a quick demonstration how we can make them looking more realistic like an oak tree. Oak being the most common hardwood tree in the British Isles. But I think with an oak tree, it would really set off the scene more than any other tree. So how we're going to make these trees, we're going to use wire. Now the wire is stripped from cable. This is actually 1.5 twin and earth cable. That's used for the smaller or medium-sized trees. You can get 2.5mm twin and earth for bigger trees. We're also going to be using flex for the finer branches. So first of all, to strip the wire off. Now what I've done is made a shield because I had a few accidents when I first started doing this, trying like that. So this is a piece of foam board, or you can use plastic card, just as a shield. So first of all, we started off slipping down the side of the cable, like that. No options with this, you can carry on with the knife all the way through, but obviously keeping your hands behind the blade, like so, or you can actually pull and draw it out from the centre. Let's finish that off, it's probably easier that way. Okay, so now you can pull it and peel it back, get rid of the outer sheathing. You'll find you already have a bare wire, which is the earth. So that's the two inner ones. To strip the cable of that, just use some wire strippers, like so. Keep pulling it off. And do that, or there's another way you can do it. Again, very safely, is laid against the, well, you could have a cutting mat, just for a second. Cutting mat there, tight against the cutting mat, and just draw it through. Like that. Once you've got the end, because you need to get the end. Just draw that knife in a moment. Okay, so we've got that stripped off. And draw it through. You actually, like the other one, you can just start it off and probably draw it through. Okay, let's just straighten those out once you pulled it through. Then once you've got about 10 to 12 of those, you just group them together. Might put them in an elastic band just to keep them together for now. Just poke a few more of those in. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're going to twist it because it makes it much stronger. Makes a stronger tree. To do that, for safety reasons, we're going to put tape around the bottom, as tight as you can get it. Okay, so once you get started, you pull and twist, so you've got that. And the most important thing is put one near the top. If you don't do that, because I'm going to twist this in a drill, and it'll flare out and can be quite dangerous. So we need to trap the top branches, if you like. Nice and tight. You can put a third one round if you need to. In this case, you should need to. If you didn't like the idea of twisting it in the drill, like I'm going to show you in a minute, you can just put masking tape all the way up the trunk of the tree, up to about halfway. So now I'm going to twist it in the drill. Make sure it's safe. Another thing we might need with this, just to be on the safe side, is some more protection. Okay, so with the drill, you can clasp it in some pliers like that, and twist it. And do it to that. And that makes a much stronger trunk of the tree. So you take that tape off now. So now you can start taking individual branches off and twist them together like so. And obviously take a main snip up higher, twist some more off further up, till you get twisted one like that. So now it's beginning to take shape. So you've got the main trunk, branches coming out, and thinner branches going at the end. The next stage is to strip off the flex cable for the finer branches. So just slip that down the centre like so. Take it out, so you're after the inner cables again now. You can actually pull those out rather than slit it all the way down. Much safer option. And to strip those cables, you need to strip those off to about halfway down again. You'll find it gets a bit stiff, so just dip it in some water. It'll come off much easier. Okay, so that's to halfway. Leave that sheathing on because that'll help you twist. So grab it with those fingers and then just let it twist through your fingers. Like so. Keep it nice and tight. When you've done that, then you can strip the other side off. In the water. Okay, once you've done that, straighten out again. So you've now got the finer branches coming out. Roughly split that in half. Give it a few twists. And the other one. Now to save a bit of time, instead of twisting it all the way down, do it all the way down, but you want about 25mm of twist to form that next branch. So what you can do, move that out of the way, and you can twist it that way. Move that one out of the way, twist it that way. And then we split it again. All the way down the branch, roughly half of the core. Twist it again. Move it out of the way, twist it again. And twist it again. So now we're left with just 4 strands. We can just twist those. And you want to leave about that much on each one, which is about 20mm. If you find it slightly slacking off, just twist it the other way around, make it nice and tight. Okay, so you've got the idea with that one now. Do that with all the branches. And like in all the good children's televisions, these someone made earlier. So now we've done all of those, what we need to do now is put them on the tree itself, or the main armature. And to do that, take your finer branches, hold it tight in the centre against the main branch, and then twist it round and round. So that join is right at the very end. And the tighter you get this, the better it is. Because if you're not careful, the whole thing can just pull off before you get a chance to do the next part. So now the branch is now beginning to look more like a branch of a tree. So there's some shorter ones there I've used for the top, longer ones for the longer ones down the bottom, and so on, until you've done them all and they start to look like that. So now you've got your branches, your finer branches, right down to the twiggy branches right on the end. Now another thing you can do, particularly if you're doing an oak tree, is some oak trees grow fairly straight, whereas others grow all deformed, twisted and gnarled. So now you can actually, once you've gone to that stage, get your pliers and you can make it all twisted and gnarled any way you want. Now to do a good tree, really like an artist, you need to study your subject. So it's a good opportunity at the moment now to go out into parks, gardens and the countryside to study the trees, take photos and then and study the detail. And it's one opportunity where you can get 5 a day, which is exercise, fresh air, research, inspiration and photography. Okay, so now you've got to that part, we need to now look at we've got the bones of the tree, now we need to put the flesh on the bones. And we'll do that one on the next demonstration. Okay, we need to put the sealant or the acrylic sealant onto the tree now. This is not the only method of doing a tree, but this method gives you more flexibility. You can still move the branches, you can manipulate the branches whichever way you want when you've finished the tree. You can squash them up against the back scene. You can even use a tree as a scenic break instead of using a tunnel mouth or an overbridge. There's no limit to what size of tree you can make. I mean, I've classed this as a double O gauge tree, and this is an O gauge. But a little later on, you'll see that these are only small trees in comparison to scale. So, how we're going to put the silicone on there? Well, I say silicone, it's actually sealant, not a silicone. It's a acrylic-based sealant, which is water-based. Now, obviously, you can't use silicone for 2 reasons. One, you'll get a hell of a mess, you get enough mess with this one, but you can't paint over silicon afterwards. It's got to be a water-based one, and there will be a link on the end of this to show where I got the silicon, the sealant from. So before you start with your sealant, it's always best to make an angled cut on the end of the tube. When you buy a tube, it comes dead straight. So if you put an angle on it like that, it's easier to put on. If you don't do an angle on that, what happens is the material tends to flex back on itself or roll back on itself. So before we do this job, I need to get some gloves. Now this is quite a messy job, and before you start, best to put either a PPE on, such as an apron or something, or all clothes, or what I use, excuse me a second, is an old towel. So you can spread it over yourself so you don't get a mess. Okay, so using the sealant now, the acrylic sealant, best to start with the branches first, and then work your way down to the main trunk. Before you do that, what I'm also going to do is put a washer on the bottom, and this makes a base. You can still see the washer there on that base, so it gives a stop somewhere to plant the tree. Also gives a spigot so the tree can go into your scenery. So if you can't do this one-handed, because it's quite a heavy thing to use, if you're not used to using a gun, then you can put this into the vise, or you can use some grips to hold it, such as these, while you place your silicon on. So start with the tree, don't worry if it looks a mess at the moment, we can soon sort that out. I prefer to use it freehand. Now you'll find in this weather it would take much longer to go off. When I did some in the summer, it went off quite quickly. So you might need to do this in stages or layers, so allow for it to dry. Don't worry too much about the very ends. We'll cover that shortly. It's looking a bit of a mess at the moment, but we can sort that out. So with a small paintbrush, dipped in a very small amount of water, you start drawing your branches along to form the branches. We still take a bit of patience and time in order to get it right. You'll see there's already material coming onto the brush or the sealant, so you can just wipe the brush off on those upper branches. Now your aim is to get each branch reducing towards the top, or the outer limits if you like. A little bit of water again to stop the brush sticking too much. You can now see it's beginning to make some shape of what a real tree looks like. As I say, you'll probably have to do this in several layers. You'll find it much easier to cope with doing it in thinner layers. Okay, I need to put this washer back on now. And to create the rest of the main trunk. Obviously that's not enough for the main trunk, I'll have to build that another layer. But the other thing you'll see that with the brush you can actually form the bark feature, if you like, the lines of the bark coming down. If you've got any residue left on your brush, you can just lose that on the outer branches. Now another method for the very outer branches, if you can put that on the pallet and do the branches like that. As I say, you need to build up in layers. You could do a lot more there, but I'm not going to put much more on there because it won't dry. I'll just draw some up. Okay, so we need to build that up in layers. Let's put that to one side. You'll eventually end up with the tree looking more like a tree should look, with it diminishing towards the outer edges. As I say, you can still flex this any which way you want. And the other thing you need to do at this stage, obviously you'll end up like that when you've done the silicone. Not many trees are brown, they're more of a grey colour, they're more a grey brown. So you need to paint it out first, make it more realistic with the colours, and it will end up looking more like that one when you're finished. You can even feature the start of the roots coming out, because the tree has got three parts to it. You've got the root system, which will look like that, so you can show the roots beginning to start. You've got the main trunk, then you've got the crown. So the next job is to form the crown. So we'll move on to that section next. Okay, to make the tree a little bit more realistic in colour, like I was saying, we need to paint it grey, so all I've done is mixed a bit of white and a bit of black and a bit of water. You can be quite thin with this, because you don't want it looking, we don't want to lose the brown if you like. You won't be too fussy with this. A lot of it you're not going to see because of the foliage anyway. Now the other thing that you can see on the camera with that's more of a rippled effect to the bark. All I've done with that, before it's almost dry, it takes about 2 hours to dry with the skin and about 12-24 hours to fully dry before you do the next coat. But on the final coat, when you've got a bit of moisture on there, you can actually stipple it to get that bark effect. Or you can just do the lines, which looks quite realistic as well. Ideally, you want to take photos, or you can get a decent book, such as that one. It shows you the streaks that you can get with brush strokes, stippling effect to get it looking like bark. Okay, so once you've done that, you need to stick the foliage on. What we're going to use for that is rubberised horsehair. Pretty inexpensive. You can buy a block of this for about £1.50 from the scenic suppliers. And all we do with that, you just tear bits off that we're now going to stick on the end of these branches just to form that. Now a good tree really should be able to see daylight through it. When I made my first tree, I covered the whole lot in this material and it looked more like a mushroom or a parachute. So what you want to do is see daylight through the branches. How complex you make trees up to you. You can make it fairly simple like that, or a bit more complex like that one. Okay, so stick that on. What I use is cheaper U-hood. It's quite sticky, so it sticks the foliage to the branches, just on the extreme branches, on the very ends. Do that on all the very ends. The twiggy branches on the end. There are various materials you can use. There are some finer materials you can use for this. It's like a very fine matting, again from the scenic suppliers. So move some of this out of the way. So once you've torn it onto strips, about that sort of size, you can then put it on your tree like so. Try and marry the size of material to suit the size of the branch. see it sticks to your fingers as well. Now you may find you've got some loose ends there, which don't look too natural, so you can just trim those off. Any loops you get with this material, you can also strip off. Okay, let's put it away. The other material you can use, particularly for a small tree or a finer tree or an engaged tree, you can buy it ready flock already in a packet, or if you want to be a cheapskate like me, you can use fleece, spray it green, again tear it out, and you can use a much finer fleece for a smaller tree. Okay, so now we've got to that stage. So this is a fairly basic tree, this one. We'll move on to the next stage and put in the final flock on the tree itself. Okay. Okay, so now we've added the foliage. As I say, when I first made one, I made this one about 10 years ago, and that one is a bit too together. I can free it out and perhaps do this one again, but there is a danger of putting too much of the outer foliage on it. It's looking a bit sort of mushroom-like. The other thing is, I prefer a lighter colour or a medium green colour. That to me doesn't look that natural, where that seems to look more natural. So what we need to do now is put the leaves on the trees, if you like. Now an oak leaf, there's a full-size oak leaf. If I was to scale that down in 4mm, that's about 3 inches by 1.5 inches. That would be 1mm by 0.5 mm. Now I did notice last week on the internet, one of the manufacturers do oak leaves. I don't know how big they are. I haven't seen the product yet. I'd like to see it when we can in better times. So that means that that's only about 1mm, and a leaf is about 1mm in scale for double O. So that is the material you're looking for. It's almost powder-like. Obviously there are leaves bigger than that, such as the sycamore or the end of the chestnuts. You could go for slightly bigger flocks such as that, but personally I think the finer stuff works much better. Almost powder. That's a woodland scenic one, so is that one. Now, like when we're doing static grass, I always find if you mix the colours you get a much better effect, because a leaf in real life, sometimes if it's blown the wrong way, it can show a different colour in the light. So to mix colours, to have it too uniform, looks a bit too garish. So first of all, you mix the colours up, a bit of dark, a bit of medium, mix them together. A bit more medium in that, tone it down a bit. You can see that, but that's all mixed together now. Now I need my bowls. So, to add the leaves to the tree, what I use is spray varnish. Now that spray varnish there has done about 20 trees, so I'm running short of that now, and I struggle to get spray varnish locally. So I looked on the internet and I managed to find that one, which is from a company in Cranbourne in Cornwall, the same town where Richard Trevithick was from, and that's only 98p. So again, I'll put a link on the internet for that. It looked quite an interesting shop that down there. I haven't had a chance to check else what's down there, but that was certainly cheap at 98p. So I'll just use my old varnish up if it lasts. So again, we need a bit of preparation, a bit of paper or something, because you don't want varnish on the branch itself, or the tree, sorry, the tree itself. Where's my paper gone? There we are. So first of all, I find to mask the tree off, that's best done. You'll find paper always tears one bit better than the other. Need to mask all the branches off, because it doesn't look right when leaves are sticking to the branches and the tree and the main stem. You can do it with plastic, you can do any masking material. A bit more difficult to try and do it with masking tape. And obviously a pair of gloves as well, because you don't want it to stick to your fingers either. Okay, so once you've got that masked off sufficiently, I'll see how much varnish is left in this. Move everything else out of the way so that doesn't get sticky as well. So spray it all around, not forgetting the underneath of the material as well. Yeah, that's about to go. So the underneath of the tree first, to the top. Obviously I should be wearing a mask for this, health and safety reasons, but you wouldn't hear what I was saying. Once you've done that, it's just a matter of sprinkling your flock over the tree itself. Get the rest of it off, use that again if need be. And the best of the varnish situation is, or method is, you can actually now tie all that in by giving it another spray. So it locks it into the branch, or you can go over it again. If you feel it needs a little bit more, just go over it again. Okay, remove the. You can even shake the paper off and use that again. Okay, it's quite a sparse tree, this one. Let's just get rid of some ones that don't look quite right. Okay, so that one's pretty sparse, but you can keep adding to that to make it bigger, more foliage, so it ends up looking more like an oak tree. Now, earlier I referred to that as 00 scale, 4mm, and this one is O gauge, 7mm. But really, this tree here is only 200mm high, which is only 50 foot. Most oak trees and all the hardwood trees can grow to 100 foot. So if we was to do 100 foot, it would be as high as that stick there, which really would overshadow anything on the layout. So really we're looking at sort of moderate trees really when we're actually doing these, to think about scale. Now the other thing you can do is you can add extra detail to that A lot of oak trees and older trees, this one shows us chestnut tree, they have what's called burls, B-U-R-L. It's growth on the tree, they're not really sure what causes it, but if you can see that in detail there, they're like fungus growing on the tree, like a wart almost. Actually been used in horror films quite effectively, because some look like gargoyles from cathedrals. Almost because they've got faces in them, and they also have shoots growing out of them. That's quite easily done. All you need to do, as I've done with this bit of wood I found in the park, is put a blob of silicone on, and then with your brush, with a bit of damp on the brush, you can just stipple it again, and it looks very similar to what you see on the real tree. If you want to have the little shoots of branches growing out of it, like I've done with this one here, all I did for that was put a blow on the tree and use a very fine wire out of that to form the shoots. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, to form the shoots coming out of the burl. You can also have branches that are being cut off, so you can form it like that. That's just a bit of wire stuck on, and then the sealant formed over the wire to form that. You can have a die-back branch, which is, if you can see that one there, where the branches actually die back. When they die completely, they die right into the tree and form a hole. So just take that branch out, now you can see a woodpecker hole where it's died back right through. Obviously, a lot of this detail on the top you wouldn't see, it's more the detail down the bottom. Those burls can go right around the tree, almost doubling the size of the tree at the bottom. And then there's that one there, slightly bigger hole where it's died back, size of an owl nesting tree. So there's all sorts you can do with the tree to sort of personalise it. You could even paint it slightly green to make it look like moss and growth on the tree, particularly on the top of the branches. Or you can do with this one here, a young lad on a swing on one of the branches. That was like that tree I did about 10 years ago. So it's endless. You could also have ivy growing up it, whether you use the same method of sticking the foliage, or painting that first, sticking the foliage, you can have it growing up like ivy, or you can just put strings of glue up there and run or sprinkle the flock over it to create ivy growing up the tree as well. All sorts of things you can do. You'd have cows sheltering from the sun on a sunny day. Lovers at the bottom. You could even have squirrels chasing each other. You're only limited by your imagination. You can do anything you like and really personalise your own layout. Okay, so that's about it on that. There's not more I can add to that. All I can say is go out there, have a look at the trees, how they're made, or how they're grown, I should say, and then you can just emulate it any way you like. Okay, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching this Warley virtual event presentation. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. We hope to see you when we are back at the NEC on the 27th and 28th of November 2021.